Hey everybody, it's Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here. Let's talk about this pattern. We thought we'd be in the midst of an Arctic outbreak right now a week ago. Obviously, ever since that, everything's been pushed back. But here's the thing, the Arctic air hasn't disappeared. It didn't go away. It just got delayed. And while I don't think we're going to see brutally Arctic air, we've got some cold air on the way and the potential for some wintry weather. So what's going on right now? Let's take a look. Yeah, that's a weird view. We'll pop and take a look at the radar there. That was kind of weird. You could see to the north, the Arctic boundary is kind of defined by where we're seeing this band of snow. That's basically where the cold air is defined. And just to show you this image, I think this image tells you a lot about where the cold air is. You could see it moving down through the middle of the country. But what's impressive to me is everywhere in this blue here, this like aqua shade, that's below zero. That is a huge reservoir of cold air that is sitting over Canada, and it's just starting to move into the U.S. So you can see the below zero readings coming down into the plains. And I tweeted this earlier. You remember Dallas was at 66 degrees at one point today. They're back to 43. So the cold air, instead of coming right at us like this, it's been kind of pushing here. But what's going to happen is the cold air is going to build here and then slowly ease to the east over the next couple of days. So the effect on us is going to be one really nice warm day tomorrow, and then it's going to get steadily colder and colder and colder until we get to the weekend and early next week. And then potentially we're going to see some wintry weather. So let me show you what's going to happen in the short term. Tomorrow is going to be a really warm day because we're going to have southerly winds develop. We've got some sprinkles overnight and even a little bit of drizzle. So tomorrow during the afternoon, if we get any sun, which I do think we will, we could be in the low 60s. But what's going to happen starting Wednesday is the dreaded wedge is going to develop. Because of that Arctic air to the north, we're going to start seeing northeast winds develop here. And that northeast wind is going to set the stage for potentially several days of just miserable, I don't know what to say, just dreary, wet, cold weather. That northeast wind is coming in at the surface. Then above it, we're going to have a southwesterly wind, which is going to put moisture up and over. So you could see as we go through Wednesday, that cold air kind of settles in. And then as we go into Thursday, we start to see the moisture return. And then you notice, oh, we've got this moisture running up and over this cold air. We lost some of the data there briefly, but you get the idea. We're kind of wedged in. We've got low pressure on the coast. There's our low. Here's our front. Northeast winds, wintry weather coming down to about right there. It's just a cold pattern overall. And once this gets like this, I don't think this stalled front is going to move a whole lot over the next several days. If anything, it's just going to get progressively colder. And I'll show you what it looks like as this Arctic air mass moves. So you notice it kind of sitting over the middle of the country. I'm going to play this out to here. We'll stop this on Thursday. So the cold air you see the north winds. Here's our stalled front right there. And you can see in the Carolinas, we're kind of in the battle zone. So we've got some kind of boundary here, but the northeast winds are trying to win out on Thursday. As we go through time, you can see that cold air dives to the southeast. So the Carolinas actually get a little bit colder because of that northeast wind and that wedge. But look at the Arctic air over the middle of the country. I mean, this is crazy. Look at that below zero readings way down into Texas. Look at the north winds all the way down into Mexico and the Gulf of Mexico. This little ridge is the only thing saving us in Florida from being super cold. I mean, actually, we're pretty chilly at this point on Sunday. But you can see the only heat is really in Florida. And for us, we've kind of got this crazy setup where we've got northeast winds coming in this direction, and we've got east winds coming here. So this is a really wet flow, and the coldest air is just on the other side of the mountain. So potentially here, we're going to have this cold air begin to shift to the east. So this is Valentine's Day. It looks cold, maybe 40s, drizzly, misty day. But watch the cold air start to ooze to the east. This is a 6 a.m., excuse me. Let me put a pause point there real quickly. I just want to show you how close it's getting. So remember, the aqua is below zero. Look how close it's getting us. We're starting to see a northwest wind. So that cold air is starting to move into the Carolinas. This is Monday. And then going into next week, that cold air is kind of creeping near us. It starts coming in from the north. The cold air really starts to set up over the southeast early next week. So while it may not be single digits, and well, we could see teens at night. I still think that's, but single digits probably off the table unless we get snow cover of some kind. The fact that we've got this flow coming in from the north where all the snowpack and Arctic air to the north is, pretty cold setup through the middle of next week. In fact, it probably stays cold. You know, this is all the way through next Thursday. So you could see the cold air just kind of hanging on here for a while. So it's going to be a cold stretch of weather. So Next thing is, are we going to see wintry weather? Well, the pattern really hasn't changed all that much. I think a lot of folks get caught up in looking at deterministic models, like one model run, and go, oh, it's gone. But the thing is, the trough, the cold air, and the storm track haven't really changed. When you look at modeling like this, sometimes subtle changes have big impacts in the long range. So this front slowing down by a day or shifting 100 miles east or west has a big impact. But the fact that the front's even in the vicinity is really the more important factor at the long range. So you could see that this stalled front is kind of meandering across our area through the middle of the week. You know, the snow stays to the north, but we've got rain, especially Thursday. But what's interesting there is look at that right there. That cold wedge I just showed you might be cold enough we see some ice threat moving down. So this is a cold, miserable rain here, but the ice threat's getting close to us on Friday morning. You see the ice kind of shifting to the south there? So that's going to be a close call. Probably miserable cold rain, but that's an icy threat for Friday, Thursday night and Friday. And then going into the weekend, you know, we've still got the wedge in place, so miserable cold rain, but the cold air is close enough. We're getting some mountain snow. And then next week is where it gets a little fascinating, because look at the airflow. So what I'm showing you, those streamlines are showing you the direction of the airflow. So it's coming straight out of the north and northeast or northwest. So this is the heart of the Arctic air. You could see it's so cold down to the Gulf of Mexico that there's snow down into Texas, Mexico, almost to Houston. So this is a cold flow of air. So what we're going to watch for is, hey, something along this front moving in this direction that throws moisture back into this cold air. That's your ideal setup for winter weather around here. So if I play this, you'll see this wave coming, and look at this next week. Ugh. That looks like an icy mess right now, but it could be snow as well. This is a pretty potent setup right there. You see the low pressure somewhere here. And again, we're talking a week from today, basically, right? So, you know, all you're saying it's ice and rain right now. Here's the thing. This could shift this way a little bit and bring colder air. It could be snow. It could shift this way. The fact that there's a storm anywhere in this vicinity and we've got cold air to the north, that's what I talk about when I talk about favorable patterns. You can't get caught up in, like, is it going to exactly be snow or ice 7 days out? You're really focusing on the pattern here. And the fact that this pattern has not changed really since last week, we knew this pattern was going to be there. We haven't seen a giant ridge take over. We haven't seen the storm track lifted. It doesn't look warm and dry. It just looks not as cold. That's the only big change that has really happened in a week, and it looks delayed. Those are the things that have happened. The cold and the storm tracks have not gone away. The cold's just a little not as cold, and the storm track's delayed a little bit as well. So you see that setup. I mean, that right there is going to be something to watch next, I would say, even Monday. And again, this could be speeding up or slowing down. So that Sunday through Wednesday time frame has wintry weather, and look at that burst at the end there. So this right here is definitely a pattern that is favorable for wintry weather in our part of the world. When we see this setup here, this is what I mean about favorable pattern. Again, if I were to pause this, I'm going to pause this for a second. Now I'll play with the model data here. I'll kind of show you. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move the model data. We'll move it north. That's more rain. That's only 70 miles. Move it south, 70 miles. Let's move it east 70 miles. Or let's move it west 70 miles. So you can see I'm just doing small changes that are they're negligible. There's 50, 60 mile difference. You know, we could adjust it by more precipitation or less precipitation. I mean, we can do all kinds of crazy stuff to it. And these are just little changes. I'm making 1-2% changes in the overall setup, and look at the drastic differences. That's why sometimes your apps will have crazy swings, because this is exactly what they're pulling. They're not looking at the overall pattern. They're taking a snapshot in time based off of one run. So I still think we've got a very favorable pattern for this wintry weather going into next week, and really starting this weekend. Again, remember, we could have some icy mix Thursday, Friday, which looks negligible this weekend. Doesn't look like, I mean, it looks like it's light, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a little icy threat there, and then this bigger system next week. So you're really looking at like 3 possibilities here with that cold air in place. And remember, that cold air is coming. It's just a matter of time. It may not be as strong as we thought last week, but when I look at the 6 to 10 day outlook, the heart of the cold is still to our west, but we're still clearly in below average readings. So as we go through the next couple days, I'll do updates on this as we get closer. We'll have a little better idea, but if you're waiting for cold and snow and wintry weather, The next 2 weeks are going to be really in the climatological peak of our wintry season anyways, as far as storms. But the fact that the pattern is so favorable for it, it seems I'd be amazed if we missed out on every single one. Now, I can't guarantee you snow, but I will tell you this: there's probably going to be an ice or snow threat at some point in the next 6 to 10 days. Hope you're having a great night, everybody. I will post another update probably the middle of the week as we get closer to the weekend. Definitely going to see something around this weekend or early next week.